We often talk about the fog of war in a metaphorical sense. Confusion, lack of information, chaos.
Right.
But in the Persian Gulf right now, or, well, specifically looking at September 2025, it isn't really fog. It's a calculated digital blackout.
It's more than that. It's a digital hallucination. And that is the scary part.
Hallucination.
Yeah. It's not just that you can't see. It's that your instruments are actively lying to you about what you are seeing.
Exactly. And we're looking at a situation where one of the most vital, most congested shipping lanes on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz, is essentially being gaslit. We have a first-hand account today from the Deep Draft, written by Captain Raghu Sharma. And to be clear, he isn't commanding a speedboat or a fishing trawler. He is on the bridge of a VLCC, a very large crude carrier.
A 300,000-ton behemoth. And what really stands out in Captain Sharma's account is the specific timing. The September 18th, 2025. The geopolitical temperature between Israel and Iran is it's boiling over. And he's not just dealing with the usual hazards of the sea. He's dealing with the aftermath of a collision that happened just days prior.
That collision is the absolute key context here. Just days before Sharman takes command, two tankers, the Front Eagle and the Adalynn, they smashed into each other 15 nautical miles offshore.
And the Adalynn isn't just any ship, it's part of the so-called shadow fleet.
So these are the vessels that often run dark, manipulate their transponders.
Yeah, they operate outside standard regulatory frameworks to move sanctioned oil. So the environment Sharma is entering is already just unbelievably chaotic.
And early reports pinned that crash on navigational error, but we know now it was specifically spoofing.
The GPS signals in the region were manipulated, leading two massive vessels to think they were in different places until they occupied the same space at the same time.
So when Captain Sharma steps onto his bridge in Fujairah and his crew tells him the GPS is useless, he isn't just annoyed. He knows he is entering a kill box. He knows that the technology that failed the Front Eagle is now failing him.
And that really sets the stage for this deep dive. We are looking at when GPS goes dark, steering a VLCC through the Persian Gulf's chaos.
It's a masterclass in what happens when the screen goes red, and you have to rely on skills that, frankly, a lot of the industry has maybe forgotten.
Or hoped they'd never need again.
Let's talk about the vessel itself for a moment. He mentions he took over in ballast condition. Now, for those not in the industry, that means the ship is empty of cargo.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's easy to drive, does it?
Oh, quite the opposite. A VLCC in ballast is like a giant steel balloon floating on the water. It rides very, very high.
So it's not weighed down?
Not at all. You have a massive amount of windage. That's the surface area of the ship exposed to the wind.
So if a gust hits you, it pushes the ship sideways much, much harder than if it were loaded with oil.
Precisely. You slide. And when you are sliding sideways in a narrow shipping lane and your GPS is telling you that you're 5 miles away from where you actually are,
the margin for error just vanishes.
it's gone. You don't have the luxury of guessing your drift.
And that is exactly what happened. They are preparing to enter the Gulf. Tension is high. And then the call comes from the bridge team.
Yeah.
Captain, both GPS units are jammed, spoofed, useless.
That word useless is so heavy. In modern shipping, the ECDIS, the electronic chart display, it's the brain of the ship.
And it relies on GPS.
It relies entirely on GPS to place the ship on the digital chart. When GPS goes, the ship's icon on the screen either freezes, disappears, or even worse, it starts jumping around the map like a glitch in a video game.
So Sharma describes the immediate threat. He's surrounded by high-stakes traffic. He has no position data. He has to make a decision. Do you stop? Or do you proceed blind?
Well, you can't really stop, not in the middle of a traffic separation scheme. You just become a hazard yourself.
You become the rock in the stream.
Exactly. You have to keep moving. And this is where the psychological shift happens. Sharma talks about the analog toolkit.
This is the part of the article that really just grabbed me. He lists these tools: dead reckoning, parallel indexing, visual bearings. I mean, they sound like things from a Horatio Hornblower novel, not a ship built in the 2020s.
They are ancient concepts, but they are the bedrock of navigation. The problem is, in the age of satellites, they've become secondary skills.
Almost forgotten.
Almost. Dead reckoning, or DR, is the most fundamental.
I think most people have a vague idea of dead reckoning. You
Yeah.
you guess where you are based on how fast you were going.
It's a bit more rigorous than a guess, but that's the principle. It's an estimation. You take your last known confirmed position, your fix.
Your last good location.
Right. Then you plot a line based on your compass heading and your speed. If you travel at 12 knots for 1 hour, you should be 12 nautical miles down that line.
Should be.
Ideally. But the ocean isn't a highway. You have currents pushing the hull underwater. You have that windage we talked about, pushing the superstructure above water.
So you're crabbing sideways.
Exactly. And you have to estimate that slide. The really terrifying part of Dead Reckoning is the circle of error. The longer you go without a new, hard fix, the wider that circle gets.
So you could be anywhere inside that circle.
After an hour, you might be anywhere within a 1-mile radius. After 4 hours, you could be dangerously off course.
So Sharma is running this huge mental math equation constantly.
Yeah.
But he also mentions parallel indexing. That sounded more active.
Parallel indexing, or PI, is brilliant because it ignores the map entirely. It uses the radar.
Just the radar.
Just the radar. You look at the radar screen, which is showing you the raw reflection of the world's solid objects, shorelines. You draw a line on the screen parallel to your course, let's say exactly 2 miles off a specific island.
Ah, so you aren't asking where am I on the chart. You're asking, am I 2 miles from that rock?
Exactly. If the radar blob of that rock stays on your line, you're safe. It's like driving by watching the guardrail instead of the GPS. It's a relative safety measure that is immune to GPS spoofing.
Because you can't spoof a cliff face.
You can't spoof a cliff face. Which leads us to the real game changer. The tool Sharma says saved them. RIO, Radar Information Overlay.
This is the hero of the story, he says.
It is, and it's fascinating because, ashore, RIO is often treated as a bit of a nuisance.
Why on earth would it be a nuisance?
Because it makes the digital chart look messy. The ECDIS screen is usually this clean, crisp vector map. RIO takes the dirty, fuzzy green radar return and lays it right on top.
Oh, I see. So captains usually turn it off to declutter the screen.
Many do. Or they just treat it as optional. But in a spoofing environment, RIO is the only truth detector you have.
Okay, so break that down for us. How does it expose the lie?
Okay, so imagine your GPS is spoofed. The digital chart thinks your ship is 2 miles east of where you actually are, so the chart itself moves underneath you. Now, you turn on RIO. The radar sweeps the area. It sees a coastline.
But the chart shows open water there because the GPS is wrong.
Got it. In one. So now you have a visual mismatch. The green radar coastline does not line up with the black chart coastline. They're offset.
And that gap, that's the lie.
That is the spoofing distance,
Yeah.
exactly. And RIO allows the navigator to manually grab the digital map and drag it until the chart coastline matches the radar coastline.
Wow.
You are physically snapping the digital world back into alignment with the physical world.
That is such a tangible image. You are literally overruling the satellite with your own eyes.
You are. And Sharma points out that this requires mental RIO as much as technical RIO. You have to be willing to trust your eyes and the radar over the expensive computer system telling you you're somewhere else.
He mentions the frustration with people ashore who view this as optional. It really highlights the disconnect between the people designing the systems
Who assume GPS always works.
and the people operating them in a war zone.
It's the difference between theory and practice. In theory, GPS is redundant. In practice, in the Persian Gulf in 2025, GPS is a liability.
Now, navigating is one thing, communicating is another. This brings us to what I'm calling the pop quiz. They're approaching Das Island, navigating via these analog methods, and VTS, the Vessel Traffic Service, calls them up.
This is a high-pressure moment. VTS is like air traffic control. They want order. They ask Sharma for his position and to identify the nearby traffic.
Well, the standard way to do that is to just read the coordinates off your screen and look at the AIS tags of the other ships. But he can't do that.
He's flying blind on the digital spectrum. I love his response here. He doesn't try to bluff. He doesn't pretend everything is fine.
What does he?
He gets on the radio and says, "We are as blind as you, GPS spoofed, no AIS."
Wow. No shortcuts, just discipline. That's the quote. He tells them he can only identify vessels by type and size using the radar.
That honesty is a safety protocol in itself. If he had guessed or tried to fake a position, he introduces bad data into the system. By admitting his limitations, he forces VTS to pay closer attention to him.
It's professional seamanship.
It is.
But it contrasts so sharply with the reaction he got when the pilot boarded at Dawes Island.
Oh, the pilot. This is such a telling scene. The pilot climbs up the ladder, walks onto the bridge, probably expecting a totally routine handover.
And then he looks at the screens
And realizes the situation. No GPS. In this mess.
Sharma says the pilot looked at him like he had been shown a spacecraft.
And that reaction, that absolute shock, is maybe the most damning part of this story.
Right. I mean, Like, shouldn't pilot be impressed?
He should be impressed, but he should not be surprised. The fact that a licensed pilot found it novel that a crew could navigate using radar ranges and visual bearings, it suggests a massive skill fade in the industry.
We've become so dependent on the blue dot that the manual skills are seen as magic tricks.
Exactly. It suggests that most crews the pilot encounters are totally helpless without GPS. If the plug is pulled, they freeze.
But Sharma's crew didn't freeze.
No. He told the pilot, "We drill for this."
And that preparation is the difference between the front eagle collision and Sharma's safe passage. One crew trusted the lie or couldn't verify it. Sharma's crew treated the lie as a standard operating condition.
Paranoid mode is a survival trait in the maritime world. You have to assume the machine is trying to kill you.
So they managed to dock at Das Island. They load part of the cargo and then head to Ras Tanura. They are still dark, still no GPS.
The blackout just continues.
Upon arrival at Ras Tanura, the captain notices something eerie. The anchorage is deserted. He asks the pilot there what's going on.
And the answer is chilling. Traffic is down about 30% due to the ongoing skirmish.
That number 30% is just staggering. You read headlines about tensions, but a 30% drop in traffic in the world's primary oil artery.
That's an economic earthquake. It shows that the shadow war of spoofing and harassment is working. It's making the route too expensive or too dangerous for many operators.
The simmering tension isn't abstract. It's empty water where ships should be.
That's right.
They load the vessel to a departure draft of 20.10 meters. That's deep.
That is a fully loaded VLCC. It handles like a brick. You cannot stop it quickly. You cannot turn it quickly. The momentum is just enormous.
And navigating that out of a channel without accurate position data is...
It's high wire stuff.
And then the irony. Just as they clear the channel and hit open water, ping.
The satellites wake up. Sharma describes it as satellites poking their heads back out after a ceasefire.
It feels like the universe is playing a joke.
Yeah.
Oh, you survived the hard part. Here's your easy mode back.
But it validates their work, right? When the GPS came back, it likely confirmed they were exactly where their manual calculations said they were.
Now, I want to pivot to something that happened mid-voyage. We've been talking about the bridge, the radar, all the hard tech. But there was a moment that brought the reality of this conflict home, literally home.
Ah, yes. The spoof that reached home.
Sharma finally gets his cell signal. He looks at his phone. 20 missed calls, all from his wife.
Now, usually on a ship, 20 missed calls means a family emergency.
Right. But the reason wasn't an emergency at home. It was an emergency on the internet. His wife tracks his voyages using those public tracking websites.
Marine traffic, vessel finder, yeah. Everyone uses them. Traders, families, enthusiasts.
And because of the AIS spoofing we mentioned earlier, the internet was telling her a very, very different story.
What did it show?
It showed Captain Sharma's vessel was not in the shipping lane, but deep inside Iranian territorial waters.
And this is where the story shifts from navigational safety to information warfare.
How so?
Well, we think of spoofing as something that just confuses the ship. But AIS spoofing is designed to confuse the watchers. The ship's transponder was being manipulated or a ghost signal was being generated to broadcast a false location to the world.
So the data aggregators that feed these websites were just repeating the lie.
Exactly. And think about the implications. If you're an aggressor nation and you want a pretext to seize a ship, you spoof its signal to make it look like it violated your borders.
You create a digital history of a crime that never happened.
That is terrifying. So Sharma's wife wasn't just seeing a glitch, she was seeing a manufactured narrative.
She was looking at fake news generated by the electronic warfare environment. And Sharma had to call her back. She's a dentist, by the way, not a sailor, and give her a crash course in maritime electronic warfare.
Honey, the internet is lying. Trust the radar, not the website.
He literally lists the topics.
Yeah.
AIS spoofing, signal hijacking, radar overlays, and he notes with a bit of humor that she was unimpressed, mostly with the tech, not with me.
It is a funny moment, but it underlines that the disruption of GPS has ripples that go way beyond the bridge. It affects insurance, it affects family peace of mind, it affects global news reporting.
It creates a truth fragmentation. There is the truth on the bridge, which is verified by radar, and the truth on the global dashboard, created by spoofers.
And in a crisis, the world might act on the spoofed data before the real data even gets out.
Captain Sharma wraps up his account with some final thoughts, and he's incredibly humble about it. He refuses to frame this as some heroic escape.
He calls it professional navigation under pressure. and that is the core lesson. He emphasizes that the Persian Gulf is now a digitally contested environment.
And his final point is, when GPS fails, because it will, it's not the tech that saves you. It's your people, your drills, your backup plans.
And specifically, understanding tools like RIO, he circles back to that. It is about knowing how to use the equipment that verifies reality rather than just the equipment that reports it.
It forces us to confront our own reliance on these systems, doesn't it? We tend to think of technology as this infallible safety net. But this deep dive shows that the net has holes, massive, spoofed holes.
And when you fall through those holes, you better hope you practiced falling. Or rather, that you practiced catching yourself with analog skills.
The contrast between the collision of the Front Eagle and the safe passage of Captain Sharma's vessel really just comes down to that preparedness. The Front Eagle is a warning. Sharma's voyage is the blueprint for survival.
Absolutely. In the maritime world, unchecked optimism causes accidents. Skepticism and a verified radar return saves lives.
So as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought. We don't drive supertankers.
Most of us, anyway.
But we live our lives entirely dependent on that blue dot on our phones. We trust it to tell us where we are, how to get to our destination, even where our Uber driver is.
We have very little mental RIO.
Exactly. If your phone started lying to you today, if it told you that you were on Main Street when you were actually 3 blocks over, would you notice? Do you know the landmarks of your own city well enough to navigate without the digital crutch?
Or would you turn left into a wall because the nice voice told you to?
Are we all just one spoofed signal away from being completely lost? It's a question worth asking the next time you tap Start Navigation.
I think I'm going to buy a paper map for my glove box today.
Not a bad idea. Huge thanks to the Deep Draft and Captain Raghu Sharma for this incredible, eye-opening source material. It's a sobering look at what happens when the lights go out.
A fascinating read.
Really. That's it for this deep dive. Check your bearings, verify your position, and we'll see you next time.